This is Talking Drupal, a weekly chat about web design and development from a group of people with one thing in common. We love Drupal. This is episode 544, World Cancer Day. On today's show, we're talking about World Cancer Day, how they use Drupal, and why Drupal is the right choice with our guests, Charles Andrew Revkin and Diego Costa. We'll also cover PDF Ally as our module of the week. Welcome to Talking Drupal. Our guests today are Charles Andrew Revkin and Diego Costa. Diego's currently Chief Operating Officer and Solution Architect at 1X Internet, specializing in bridging the gap between commercial strategy and technical execution with over 20 years of experience across Brazil and Canada. He moved to Germany in 2019 and has been building high-value Drupal solutions for global clients like the UICC ever since. He's a husband and father of three who love traveling and exploring the different cultures he has called home. Diego, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Charles Andrew Revkin is a senior digital strategy manager at the Union of International Cancer Control, or the UICC, where he spends his time untangling digital complexity and turning it into tools people actually enjoy using. He works across websites, online communities, CRM, and email marketing, and adds in a growing dose of AI. Often acting as a translator between technical teams and non-technical colleagues, at heart, Charles is driven by one question: how can smart, human-centered digital solutions make global cancer control more effective, more inclusive, and a little bit easier for everyone involved? Charles, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I also will say that your bio there really speaks to me as a solution architect. I feel like that last part there about just making things easier for people is super appealing. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm John Picozzi, solutions architect at EPAM, and today my co-hosts are joining us for his second week. Steve Wirt, tech lead at Civic Action. How's it going, Steve?
Good, thanks. Happy to
Glad
be
to
here again.
Glad to have you. And last but certainly not least, Nick Laughlin, founder at Enlightened Development. Nick's the snow melting up there?
Finally is melting. I was telling Steve Martin, I think before the show, that my roof finally has no snow on it for the first time in probably 3 months.
Mm,
Last night, it finally finished melting, and the yard is only about half covered. I still have about 2 feet of snow in the front yard, but
there you go. Yeah, I was happy to be
but
able to see grass. I mean, it's funny the things that you're like get excited about when you get older or you've been in the house for a while with a lot of snow outside. You're like, yeah. So anyway, glad you're thawing out up there in the upper parts of Massachusetts. All right, and now to talk about our module of the week, let's turn it over to Martin Anderson Klutz, a senior project marketing manager for Drupal at Acquia.
Thanks, John. Have you ever wanted to check PDF files for accessibility as they're uploaded to your Drupal site? There's a module for that. It's called PDF Ally, really PDF and then A11Y, so it's sort of the commonly used numeronym for accessibility. And it was created in February of 2026, so just in the past month by Joshua Mitchell, a friend of this podcast. It has a 1.0.1 version available, which works with Drupal 10.2 and 11. It is actively maintained and is in the process of getting security coverage. And it does have test coverage as well. There are no open issues yet, and it is officially not yet in use by any sites according to Drupal.org. Now, with the PDF Ally module installed, you can set its configuration, including whether to enable or disable automatic checking on upload, whether to block uploads that fail checks or just show warnings, a minimum PDF version requirement, and which accessibility checks to run. The module also sets or creates three new permissions: administer PDF accessibility settings, run PDF accessibility checks, and view PDF accessibility report. Each PDF media item has an accessibility tab where anyone with the necessary permissions can view the results. And under the hood, PDF Ally uses the Smalot/PDF parser library to extract data from PDF files. Now, many sites rely on PDFs to make available content that they aren't able to migrate directly into Drupal content. So, making sure that doesn't introduce its own accessibility regressions is an important step. But let's talk about PDF Ally.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about this. I haven't had a chance to test it since he posted about it, what, a couple weeks ago. But PDFs are one of those things that are notoriously hard to get right. And having an additional tool for editors to be able to quickly vet them is very useful. I think there's still a piece to this where there's some education on, like, how to make something accessible, but if a editor can upload a file, and then if the organization takes accessibility seriously, then there's probably somebody who can help with that. They can then take that file and go to the person and say, "Hey, I uploaded this file. I got these notes. Is this something that you can fix?" And then they can replace it, right? Whereas without a tool like this, all of the responsibility lies on the person initially creating the file. There's nobody else to kind of keep an eye on it. The other thing that's nice about having tools like this is as tooling gets better, you can kind of rescan old files as well, I'm sure. So you can kind of maybe in 2026, you made the file, it was perfectly accessible, you put it up, it passed the checks, but 6 months from now, we find something new or the new WCAG rule set comes out, and if the module is updated, you can now rescan it and see, like, "Okay, is this something that we should" at least for the ones that are commonly used, maybe you can update them and keep them in sync. So this is kind of like it's a perfect type of module that helps that shared responsibility aspect of making sure things stay accessible.
Sorry,
Yeah.
you might have said this, Martin, but and I might have missed it, but are you able to block the upload of the files if they don't meet a certain criteria? Yeah.
Correct. So that is one of the configuration settings is to say if it finds an issue, should it just sort of, flag a warning and, log that as part of the reporting, or you can have it so that it will actually stop that from being uploaded if it has accessibility issues.
I feel like that would be like a little bit of torture on your content editors because the PDF accessibility is not easy, but I can understand, being pretty strict about that. So I like this module for that aspect.
Yeah, I could see potentially maybe, there might be value in having like a special permission that's like bypass, accessibility warnings.
I feel like it would be cool to be able to set it per role so that you could say like, "Hey, this role, no, we're gonna hold them accountable." But this role, like, yeah, we're gonna assume that they got some sort of override or veto power.
I
But
think
anyway,
there's 2 reasons why this is useful, right? One is if you've ever had a client who cares about accessibility because they've had a judgment against them, right? This is one of the ways that can help enforce that and prevent future judgments. Because obviously, with accessibility things like repeated judgments, they get more and more severe. So it can help protect against that. Like somebody saying, "Hey, I'll fix this later," and then forgetting about it. No, you
we
just
should
can upload it.
we should have a whole class of modules that are like quantified under like the Target and Domino's Pizza modules. These are the
Yeah.
modules that are gonna keep you out of penalties, legal penalties.
The other thing is, I mean, it's a permission, so inherently it's got to. If it's gated behind a permission, then you can set up different level of tooling, right? If you have somebody who's not as much of a trusted editor, or if it's an automated tool or something, you can have more strict guidelines. So you can have somebody review it because we all know automated accessibility tests are great signifiers and warnings, but they're not, just because something flags as inaccessible doesn't mean that it actually is inaccessible, right? My go-to example is alt tags. Any accessibility tool will say, "Hey, you have to have alt tags." But the truth is you have to have good alt tags. But if it's a decorative image, you're not supposed to have alt tags at all. So just because something flags something doesn't mean it's actually the most accessible it could be.
I mean, what do you do if it's a decorative image inside a PDF? Steve, you're gonna say something?
I'm really excited about this module. It's got a bunch of government sites. So we've got hundreds or thousands of editors, and to have a bit of a gate check on PDFs is fantastic because I don't know, government likes their PDFs, unfortunately.
The government's not the only one, but I hear you. Well, Martin, thank you for bringing us a wonderful module of the week. And if folks wanted to connect with you to suggest a module of the week or discuss this one, how could they go about doing that?
We're always happy to talk about potential candidates for Module of the Week in the Talking Drupal channel of Drupal Slack, or folks can reach out to me directly as Manclue on all of the Drupal and social platforms.
Awesome. Thanks, Martin. See you next week.
See you then.
Thanks.
All right. So, Charles, for those of our listeners who may not be familiar, can you kind of tell us what World Cancer Day is and the role that the website plays in supporting that campaign globally?
Sure. So, World Cancer Day is a global awareness day. It's marked every 4th of February, and it's led by my organization, UICC, so Union for International Cancer Control. We are a membership organization, so we developed the campaign in close collaboration with our members. And in the US, for instance, we have American Cancer Society, we have Cancer Research UK in the UK, and we have a variety of organizations. So it's not only cancer societies, but it's research institutes, patient support groups, even the ministries of health in some instances. So it's a very diverse membership. And so we developed this campaign to raise awareness, improve education, mobilize action around cancer prevention, detection, treatment, and care. And specifically, worldcancerday.org, so our website, is the central point of the campaign. It really is there to enable the global movement that happens on 4th of February. It's not just a repository of content and resources. There's a lot of functionality where there's a lot of user-generated content that gets added to this website. So as I said, it's a central hub for learning, engagement, and advocacy. There's a lot of resources, toolkits that they can download, social media materials, but then there's a space for them to share their stories, a space for them to share activities. So we try to use that to kind of showcase the impact and everything that's going around the world on World Cancer Day. So we have a map of activities where you can kind of find out what's happening near you. And you can also see how you can kind of take part if that's possible.
Um,
So yeah, that's in a nutshell is worldcancerday.org.
So, wondering, we're recording this on March 10th, which is about a month or so after World Cancer Day. I'm wondering, you said it was February 4th. Is there some significance to that date?
So that is something that comes up, and there was. I'm probably gonna get this wrong because I haven't checked that in a while. But there was a summit or some kind of summit, I think it was, in which there was a resolution that was decided, and basically it was just decided by that date that we would mark it on 4th of February. So
Okay.
there's until that decision there was nothing special about 4th of February that I know of.
in what year did it start? How long has this been going
I
on?
think it was year 2000.
It was
It's
6 years.
I could actually check it because I'm pretty sure it's on the website, but from my memory it is. I'm just gonna quickly
Oh,
look.
that's okay. We can give listeners homework, and then they'll go to the website and they can kind of
They
see all
can
the great
check.
things we're going to talk about.
Did Charles get it right?
So I'm curious what led your team to choose Drupal as the platform to kind of host the resources for this outreach.
Well, to be honest, the UICC has a long history with Drupal. I joined the organization back in 2012, and we were already using Drupal. But I would say it was for me the early days, and but what I can say is, so we are on Drupal on 4 different websites. One is an event, a campaign website. One is a Congress website, so our event. Another is our institutional website, and finally, there's one which is around the resources for cancer control planners. So we've built all our websites on Drupal because we really feel like it's been a solid platform to build on. And it's proven to be very flexible, robust. And so all of these sites serve different purposes and are more or less big and complex depending on their mission. And we felt that Drupal has been able to scale to whatever we needed it to be. That being said, we did do some exploration with other CMS platforms like WordPress, but we still felt that Drupal had that important place in our hearts. And we also felt that we've seen the technical kind of evolution of Drupal. So when I started, it was Drupal 6, I believe.
Hmm.
Oh wow.
And I would say it was, or at least it felt more technically complex to me at the time, less user friendly. Maybe it was also because it was new to me as well. But I do see that it's evolved quite significantly and the editorial experience is a bit more streamlined. You know, we do feel that there's a great community out there that supports the platform. And so there's no point in time where I felt like I've asked the agencies that I've worked with, can we do that? And they've never come back and said, no, it's all how much money do you have? No, I'm kidding. But
So
it is a bit about how much time and how much you want
I,
to spend
yeah.
on this. But
I
there's
think
always been a solution.
I think it's
So
interesting. I think it's interesting that you highlight the usability and the interaction. And you mentioned that you started in Drupal 6 and now you're at, 10 and 10 and 11, and you've seen the progression because
Yeah.
I think folks, a lot of us on this call have been in the Drupal community for a long time, and we've also seen that progression. So
Mm.
it's interesting for me to hear you highlight that in your response.
but before we moved on, I wanted to can I give Diego a chance to can you tell us a little bit about like when you got involved with this project and how you see maybe Drupal fits in as well?
Yeah, so it was back in 2020. I had just started with 1x Internet, and we had UICC contacting us. They were looking for potentially another partner. They already had all the sites running in Drupal, but for the World Cancer Day specifically, they were looking if there was something else out there. And I remember that was kind of one of my first introductions to Drupal as well, when I started talking to Charles about the project, and it got me really excited about being part of it. And that's when we started, was after the World Cancer Day campaign 2020. It was around April, May, I think, a few months after. And then we took over the site. And before the next World Cancer Day, I actually got news that my mom had cancer, got cancer, and that was a real big like impact for our family, and it became even more personal working with World Cancer Day and the message, and ever since I have been working with them, and it's great to see the reach and the all the resources out there, and it's a really close to my heart project. I
Given the
think you asked also about the fit, right? I think, as Charles said, there is nothing there that Charles asked us to do that we cannot do with it. It provides a lot of the features that we needed out of the box, let's say, from the contrib modules. A lot of it
Yeah.
we just use modules that exist, and but also gives us, when we need to do something a little bit different, it's also easy to build on top of Drupal, and that's, I think, makes it a really good fit for UICC.
Yeah.
given the global reach of World Cancer Day, can you describe or expand a little bit on how you leverage Drupal to hit and make accessible so many variety of languages across the globe?
I'll start answering that and maybe Diego can contribute. It's a great question because language is one of the biggest barriers, I would say, that we are constantly trying to overcome. And just before that, it is because so I'm in the communications team at the organization and I'm in charge of the website. And one of the things when we develop a new campaign is where we think about the theme. And one of the things that is often a barrier when we're developing that theme is how does it translate into different languages? And sometimes that is another challenge in itself. But just to say there's a lot of reflection that we do when we were talking about the different languages. Currently, the website is translated in three primary languages. So it's, well, the main language is English, and then there's French and Spanish as well. And these translations are human reviewed and kind of vetted by internal staff members. And we always want to be able to translate into more languages, but it is quite a workload to manage a multilingual website, as you probably all know. So we've tried to find alternatives to this barrier. Well, first of all, we do have a lot of the actual resources which exist in many more languages. I think there's up to 64 different languages for 2026. That doesn't mean that all of the materials are translated in all those 64 languages, but we have at least a few items like the logo, which exists in a lot of different languages. And then there are other things that we've tried to build in to make language not being a barrier. So I'd say like there are certain pages that and this Diego will probably explain better than I, but we have a third party translation service hooked up, which enables us to translate certain pages into even more languages. So, like the About World Cancer Day page will be translated in Hindi and Arabic and Russian or Chinese or whatever, just to give so that people reach the site at least have a reference in language they understand. This is machine translated, so it's not. I mean, we try to review if we have the internal capacity to do so, but those are some of the ways that we try to make the website as accessible. And then I will say that it's not Drupal technology per se, but we do have an AI chatbot that's integrated into the site, and that is also able to converse with the different users or the visitors in their language. So we've seen that the AI chatbot can also serve certain information in the language of that person. And I don't know if you wanted, maybe I'll let Diego talk, but then I did want to mention accessibility, which you were talking about earlier with the PDF module. But maybe I'll let Diego go first more about the language.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of core functionality. We use translation management suite of modules connected with DeepL and Google Translate for automated translations in those extra languages that are not done by the team at UICC. And so we have the core languages that are available when you go into the drop down of the language switcher and you see the three only. But depending on the page, if you land on a page that has been translated to more languages, then there is just a section that says this page is also available in, and then it shows the list of additional languages that are not in the dropdown.
So
More from the technical, yeah.
more on the technical side, not specifically using like a translation management service per se, just using Google Translate, it sounds like. And then
No,
in-house translators.
the Google Translate still goes through the translation management module.
Mhm.
So they still send for translation, get it back, but there is no user review. It goes, comes back, it gets approved and displayed. So machine translated content.
Got it, got it. Interesting. Yeah, I have a lot of background on translation and the hurdles that I know you guys are probably jumping over to get that site translated. And you remind me again, you said how many languages are you translating into?
So we have three main languages. So the website is all of the pages are translated in English, French, and Spanish, or nearly all. And then we have these additional languages that we only use on certain pages.
Got
And
it.
then the resources themselves are made available in up to, well, I think I counted 64, but sometimes it's just a logo that's available in or whatever language.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, that's a great use case for Drupal, obviously with its multilingual capabilities. Diego, I want to jump into more of the technical side of things, the architecture side of things for a minute. And I'm wondering if you can share with us, particularly any Drupal modules or integrations that are specifically important to this project. And then also, I guess as much as you're comfortable sharing, but like your kind of hosting approach. I mean, I'm assuming that, the World Cancer Day website is one of maybe a couple of websites I think that Charles mentioned the organization has. Like, is that set up in like a multi-site structure? Is that, using just individual sites with a common, core repository? Just kind of interested in kind of the technical architecture overall and any specifics to Drupal that are might be interesting to our listeners.
Yep. So we manage two of the four websites that Charles mentioned. It's uicc.org, the main institutional website,
Mm,
and worldcancerday.org.
mhm,
Those are built separately. They have very different kind of use cases and information. One is in multilingual, the other one is still only in English. So there are many differences that would make it more complicated to have it as a multi-site, and they would benefit. The UICC website is constantly evolving. Why? Because it's used throughout the year, while the World Cancer Day website is more of a peak website. So we spend some time during the year planning what we're going to do. Then we spend a couple, 3, 4 months building it, and then the event starts around November. So it's like it has a seasonality
mm,
to it. Regarding the architecture, it's a Drupal core with the standard modules. For the for the World Cancer Day website, we use like web forms for the user generated content, so users can submit their activities and their stories, cancer stories, using web forms. We have, I know you talked about, it was the module of the week last week, about address module. We use it on the activities because we then take that address that the user entered and we plot in the map with the styled Google Map module. Then we use, for the stories, we implemented last year some AI functionality using the core with some custom development. So for the stories, when the user is generating like a long text story, we automatically summarize the story using AI, and then we present to the user during the web form process so that they can check and say, yeah, this looks good or not. They can edit. So that's the piece that we show when we show the story cards,
mm.
the preview
Okay.
text, let's say. And this year, then we implemented additional functionality with AI for moderation of the stories. So we do already last year, because most of the stories they get submitted right, either on the day or the day before the event. A lot of people start submitting the
Yeah.
stories, and there was a person at UICC that was manually reviewing every single story to publish, and that was a lot of manual work happening. So we
Mm.
implemented this moderation that does the initial check and either rejects if it is a flat out, like, not related to cancer at all, or if there is a lot of bad language, or that it gets rejected right away.
That
Links
we
uh,
links
won't
to
repeat here.
pharmaceuticals and stuff like that.
exactly.
Yeah, I got you.
Or there is, like, it marks that manual review required, depending if the AI thought,
Mm.
okay, this kind of looks good, but maybe there is some bad word that in the context actually gets, it's okay to use because that's how the person felt. So if they say
Like,
cancer really
cancer
F nuts,
sucks. Like,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, we all kinda agree with that, I
We
think.
can
Yeah.
make an exception to our general rule for that. That's fine
All
to
right.
say here.
Um,
Um, I'm curious about that moderation tool because this is some or in the summary tool because both of those are areas that I've had clients share some experience. So maybe Charles, you have more insight into this too. Like how did you go about vetting that it was doing what you were expecting, right? Did you have somebody go through manually after and check and kind of double check the first year since this is it sounds like this is the first year you did that? Did you have somebody manually check everything and be like, "Oh yeah, it was 98% correct?" Because I can imagine getting incorrectly marking something as spam is a very sensitive subject here, right? So if people are sharing personal stories and something gets marked as spam and just doesn't show up ever, that could be something you would want to avoid. Is that
Yeah.
how does that
So,
piece work?
well, maybe I'll start answering, and maybe Diego can. So you're talking about more the moderation, not the
Yeah.
summarization. And so this year was the first time we had the moderation set up, and I must say that we were quite pleasantly surprised at I mean, we made it quite conservative in the first place because the thing that we wanted to avoid was for a story that we didn't feel should be shared because it got directly published. So we made it more on the conservative end. But we did have a person who was still checking every single one at first that the AI was already moderating, just to be extra sure that the ones that were getting through were okay. And I would say that very few did, or not any. At some point, we had to refine the way it worked because there's two ways of submitting a story. One is a free text, and one is with the question and answer. And the AI was getting a bit confused by the questions and thought it was still relevant to cancer. But so there were some adjustments along the way, is what I'm trying to say. But for the most part, we were quite pleased, and we also had that kind of experience with the summary because there was also a lot of questions like, should it be summarizing in the third person, like saying, is it the third person or the first person? And then there was also the language. So there was a lot of adjustments, I would say. Well, at a certain point we stopped, but there was a learning curve until we got the right formula, I would say. But maybe Diego, you also probably have your point of view.
No, I think you covered really well. Yeah, it was interesting about the question and answers that at first we were submitting the questions as well, but the questions are all related to cancer. So even if the user just answered blah in the answer, in the context of the question, that was a cancer story because all the questions had how did cancer affect your
Uh,
life? So I was saying, okay, this is a good cancer story. So I said, okay, let's stop sending the questions. Otherwise, it will
yeah, just
always
in the
consider
answer.
it a real, yeah, exactly. So
So,
that was a learning, but
Diego, I'm wondering, is the user aware before they're filling out the questions or submitting these stories that AI is going to be it's going to be sent to AI for summarizing, and then it's going to be sent to AI for validating? Is there a statement somewhere that says, "Hey, just so you know," or is it just kind of happening behind the scenes as like a administrative assistant tool sort of thing?
I,
so in the summarization, we display a comment that it was summarized by AI and that the user has the ability to change it,
Mhm.
modify completely, remove if they don't agree with it. But there is no mention of being moderated. I think, Charles, I don't
no,
remember
not
that.
at present, and maybe that's something we could consider. But I mean, to add to that, we usually always, even after it's been moderated by AI, there's always someone human who's
Yeah.
double checking in effect. But one of the reasons why we also went with the AI moderation was because, well, apart from the workload, was that we also wanted the user to be able to share the fact that they shared their story on the website on social media. And so by having it immediately go through a review process and be published if it was deemed okay by the AI, they could immediately share the link that they to their story. Because otherwise we would usually say between 24 to 48 hours before the story could be published.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it feels like you guys are doing it right, right? You're keeping the human in the loop on the summarization part and saying like, "Hey, if you don't agree with what the AI did, feel free to change it." And then on the moderation part, I mean, you still have a human in the loop there to say like, "Ah, yeah, this was good," or "Ah, no, it wasn't." And
Yeah.
that feels like the right responsible way to go. I was just interested. I mean, I think those are two really good AI use cases, and obviously you've proven them out that they work well because you're continuing to use them.
So so I have a couple of clients that have an annual funding drive or annual awareness drive as well. And there's always a big burst in traffic right around the actual date. There's always a kind of a ramp up period and a lot of testing and preparation. I'm curious kind of at 1x, how do you kind of prepare for first of all, you can confirm if there is a traffic spike, But how do you kind of prepare the infrastructure to handle a surge in visitors from a campaign like this?
Yeah, starting with the spike, yes, there is definitely that's probably one of our most visited sites, but it happens only one day of the year, and that's February 4th. And I think this year we had about 500,000 requests in an hour around.
Oh,
That was the peak at 2 GMT, which would be when the Americas wake up, there's still people in Asia, and then Europe is in the middle of the day. So everybody across the world is accessing the at the same time, and that was the peak. So how we normally do, there has been learning since we started working together in 2020, of course, and every year we do a little bit more or a little bit different. We learn from what we've missed, and this year I think, Charles, probably the least amount of, like, there was no incidents at all during the whole day, right? I think it was the calmest day for us, at least.
yeah. And for us, we do a lot of back-end editing because we're still also publishing content, especially the activities. And I would say it was the smoothest experience also in the back end was because in previous years it was a bit, it could be a bit slow. But this year was very smooth. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of it was we have Fastly, CDN, and WAF in front, so we're blocking bad robots requests at the WAF level. Then the CDN is providing a lot of the content without hitting the Drupal
Yeah.
servers, and then at the same time we did a lot of optimization of the caching in Drupal, and also the days before the event, we normally do a scaling, even though I don't think this year would have been necessary, but we scale the hardware like 5 the month before the event or close to the end of January, we scale the hardware just in case. And then that also helps with some of the editing that Charles said in the back end of Drupal. And yeah, that's basically the main things we've done, and we do it every year.
I think, it's interesting. I was gonna ask about the CDN, but you already answered that question, and it makes sense. I mean, I think, that's the CDN is very, very pivotal in the uptime. I'm wondering, the site is using Drupal as a front end theme, right? It's not headless or anything like that?
No, it is, yeah, Drupal. We do use a Storybook design system, React web components in the theme.
Mm,
We do have two parts of the site that are an embedded React app for
mhm,
experience, like when the users do their custom poster creation, as they are selecting the color and the text, it automatically kind of updates the preview. That is
Okay.
a little React app embedded. And also for the search of the materials, it's connected to Elasticsearch for the search engine, and then and the actual results part is
mhm,
a React app, but the
Okay.
rest is all standard Drupal theming.
makes sense. And I guess we I guess we didn't talk about this, so I'm gonna ask Charles. I mean, I'm assuming as people are listening to this, they can go to worldcancerday.org and make a donation if they want to, right? It's not typically like only happens on February 4th, right?
Yes. So I mean, our website is not a primary, or the primary use of the website is not for donations, but
Mm,
we do have a donation button, and so any donations are welcome.
mhm.
And but yeah, it's currently live. You can read all the stories and see all the activities that took place.
Well,
It's a great resource, if
And
I may
then
say so myself.
I did want to say, so it sounds like the primary is like evangelism or outreach, right? So maybe we can give you a second to tell us.
awareness. I think it's
Yeah,
Yeah,
awareness.
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 Can you give
Yeah.
us
Awareness.
a second? Maybe if we give you a minute, you can tell us like what this year's message was. Like, what if people are interested in keeping an eye out for next year? What can they?
So we developed a 3-year campaign. So this year was the second year of the United by Unique campaign.
Mm,
What Diego's hoodie is he's wearing. So that's the theme, and it's more about personalized care, and it's 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 about the fact that every experience with cancer is very unique.
mm,
So that's the unique part, and everyone's experience with cancer care is very unique, and but the united part is, of course, is that we're all united in our messages that there's a lot more that could be done to improve personalized care and access to cancer treatment, cancer care, cancer prevention. And I'm probably not doing it the justice it deserves, but in a nutshell, that's what it's
I mean,
about.
I think you do. I think you're doing great because we kind of just sprung that question on you or that reply on you. The other thing I wanted to ask was around content. So obviously, you say you're the around February 4th, you're updating content, but are you guys updating content on the website throughout the year, or is it really just in the weeks, months before or after that February 4th date?
So we mainly update, I would say, as Diego mentioned before, it's we launched the campaign, I would say, in October, November, preceding the next World Cancer Day, and we do update the content. We usually like wipe the map of activities clean because then new activities are organized. We usually do a bit of new content depending on the social media activity that we're running for that. I don't I don't anticipate will change. We had a really fun social media, well, fun. It was a good way of raising awareness, I would say, because it was the upside down challenge. And so people would flip their photo on LinkedIn or post pictures of them upside down in various ways. And that was a way to raise awareness around the day and cancer as a whole. And so we have that kind of content that we update. But we get stories, I would say, mainly in the months before and on the day itself.
Mm.
We will get content or activity submissions throughout the year, but I would say October, November to say March is the main part where we're really updating the website.
You
But
said
I would say, Charles, that every 3 years you do a major rewrite
Yes.
when the
Yeah,
new
you're right.
campaign comes. So when the next one starts, then there will be a lot of work to rewrite because that's what happened when United Bionic came.
Exactly.
Uh,
Sorry. I should provide that that context. Thank you. Yeah, so every 3 years we develop a new campaign. The kind of in the year one, it's more about raising awareness. In year two, it's kind of understanding the problem. Year three, it's maybe we'll package those, we'll analyze all the stories that we received. We'll look at what are recurring themes in some of the problems, like maybe it's patient navigation. And so as maybe I hope none of you had to find that out, but in some countries it's really difficult to understand what's next in their cancer journey, who they can reach out to for what kind of care. And so that may be something that comes out in the stories that is something that's continuously lacking in different countries. And so then we will reach out kind of with our network of members to policymakers to see how what they can do to improve that in their respective context. Sorry, I cut you, Diego. I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
no, no, no. I was just mentioning the 3-year kind of rewrite journey.
Yeah. And I would say, just to add on that, that is exciting in a way because every 3 years we have to kind of, well, we don't reinvent the whole website, but there's the homepage is often where we see a lot of changes. And I was really excited about this campaign because I really liked the branding and with all the emotions that are floating and crossing and with you have individual little pictures of individual stories, and those are actually the user submitted content. So it's real people's stories that are appearing on the homepage, and you can click through and read their story.
Drupal has such a strong open source community. Have you been able to collaborate with or benefit from the broader Drupal ecosystem while building and maintaining the World Cancer Day platform?
Maybe I'll let Diego answer this one, or at least start.
Well, from our perspective, yes, we do. We all the sites we do a lot. The contribution, it's like we are heavily engaged with the community. Do a lot of work with the community. We learn a lot, benefit from what is being going on in different modules and ecosystems, like all the great work that's done on web form, on translation management or AI, we can use here, and we also contribute a lot back, and we use a lot of our own modules that we are maintaining. We have a lot of maintainers in our team, so yes, it's a great collaboration.
Hmm. I think
I,
that's
I can I
sorry,
can
go ahead.
just add that I really do enjoy the open source nature of Drupal and that we have at UICC, and it's all about sharing knowledge and kind of finding solutions together, and that kind of spirit is very much aligned with what we do.
I'm actually curious specifically about how an organization such as yours approaches that because I know generally in the scientific community, a lot of people are about that. They're about sharing knowledge, right? You get into science a lot of times because you're interested in, or medicine because you're interested in, learning, helping other people, getting information out there. But a lot of research is gated behind paywalls, and and a lot of research, a lot of how do you say research that has a negative result, like doesn't have a positive result in the outcome, doesn't get published. So is there an initiative to try to make information sharing and saying like, "Hey, we studied this thing and it's not fruitful, don't go down that pathway." Do you try to help with the research side too, or is it just
So, I mean, we're very much, we cover the whole spectrum of cancer control. So, research is one aspect, and medicines and treatment are a very specific aspect. But there's so much more to that. But for instance, for national cancer control plans, that's one of the websites, the ICP portal that we run in partnership with other organizations, I should say. We are trying to give access to all of the national cancer control plans. Some of my colleagues and in UICC and other organizations have kind of reviewed all of or a lot of the cancer control plans and kind of said, these are quite strong in these areas. So there's a bit of that. There's about implementation science. So what works in different communities. We are also working with other organizations on tobacco control, which is also a big aspect of cancer control. So, and more in the prevention side, and there's a lot of sharing of knowledge of how to best go about implementing that those prevention mechanisms in your different countries. So, yes, you could say that in specific science and development of cancer drugs, of course, there's a lot of secrecy and gatekeeping because of course there's proprietary aspects to that, but there's a lot of other aspects to cancer control which are not gate kept, and which are we're trying to get the information out there and to connect the people together in different contexts and settings in which they could help each other or learn from each other.
Diego, I wanted to focus in on something you just mentioned, and it was around kind of like custom module development. I'm wondering, has there been a feature or functionality that you wished was available in the contrib space that you just couldn't find and that you had to build custom, like, and if so, like, any plans to kind of contribute that back maybe?
So let me think. I think the only real thing that we did custom was the AI moderation on the web form submission,
Mm,
because we didn't find a ready module already, but we still use the underlying core AI core. We use
sure.
the open AI provider module, so it's still using some of those. And the summarization also, when we did. So the summarization and the moderation we did custom. I know a lot of work has been going on in that space. There's probably things coming out every week. There is something new coming out, so I'm sure that something will be there soon. But that was mainly the only one. We did the custom poster as a React app, but it was more a front end thing than, and it was more interactive, so not really something that we looked into the modules. But everything else we used existing modules.
What LLM are you using? Is it like is it your own kind of, private LLM, or is it, one of the mainstream?
It's somewhat, well, it's a private like it's still OpenAI, but it's in UICC's private
Yeah,
Microsoft
makes sense.
environment.
Oh, so you're using, like, the Azure service, I think it yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
Wait, so is this site hosted on Azure in general, or is it just that tool?
Just the AI. This
Okay, because
site is
I have hosted Drupal sites in Azure, and that is an exercise in pain and misery. I would not recommend hosting on Windows environments. Yeah, that is painful. It's possible. It's painful. I kind of wanted to circle back to something that we talked about a little bit earlier before we move on, which is the kind of 3-year cycle of campaigns that you guys had mentioned. Because I'm curious how you came to that 3-year cycle. It was there like a strategy? Is there a strategy behind it? Is it a resourcing thing? You'd like to do more often refreshes? Do you find you get better data? Why do you choose a 3-year
So,
cycle?
so just to be clear, it's a 3-year cycle for the theme. And the reason, I think this is the third cycle of well, it's the third time we are doing a 3-year theme, because before we would do each year was a different theme. And obviously at that time we didn't change the website so significantly. I mean, we would update it, but not as dramatically, I would say. And there was multiple reasons. One was, as you pointed out yourself, it was more a question of resources. Once we develop all the material, all the branding, all the copy, etc., it is quite an investment in time and money on our part, and we feel it always felt a bit a waste to only use it a year. And we've also noticed that in the yearly cycle, sometimes we would often see, you know, some organization in some country using one of the previous year's theme because they particularly liked it, or because they didn't realize we had moved on to a different theme. And so we felt that having a 3-year cycle gave more time for us to talk about a certain problematic that we wanted to address. The previous 3-year was close the care gap, so it was about, giving access to certain parts of the community that may be, out of the loop of healthcare systems, or have problems with access. So it's really with this 3-year cycle, we felt we were investing a bit more time in addressing that theme. And also we were kind of, because we have all these over 1,000 members across the world, it also gives them more time to invest into that particular theme in their setting, and to kind of really explore all they can with that theme of how they can communicate about cancer in their context. So it's practical and strategic, I would say.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It also gives you opportunity to refine a little bit year over year and make something a little
Exactly.
bit more poignant if necessary. Yeah. No, I was curious because I've never had a client that has an annual thing that they have like a thread like that. So it's pretty interesting. Getting back to the platform itself. So if you're looking ahead to the next, I think you said that this next year is the third year, so you'll be getting ready to ramp up the next year. What kind of improvements or innovations are you considering to kind of help make these bigger transitions easier and more efficient?
I think I mean, apart from the first year of a campaign, we kind of usually put more money and more resources into reimagining the website, and then the following 2 years, it's more about refining and improving incrementally. And I would say that one of the big focus is to make the experience for the user as frictionless and, as smooth as possible, so that they can easily get to the information or to what they want to do on the website as easily as possible, that there's no like barrier that can prevent them to do that. So it's really about seeing how we can, yeah, really use AI or other new modules to make that experience even better. To be honest, because of the fact that it's gone pretty well with the story moderation, I'm also looking at, because we also get submission of activities, and that also is a bit of work to go through those. So that's also where I could
Yeah.
see potentially exploring how AI could make that process smoother. We're also very much interested in, because we get a lot of user generated content, the metadata and the tagging or the alt text filling is not always done. So that's also where I could see AI perhaps doing that work for us. So it's really incremental. I would like more languages and making some things smoother for us also in the back end and for the user.
So speaking of back end, Diego, how about you? What kinds of things are you doing to make these transitions easier so that so the reach can be further?
Yeah, so I think what we do is, as Charles said, the first year is like we do this big relaunch of the team, not of the website, and then we kind of wait to see how users interact with it, and then like last year there was a lot of interaction with certain parts of the website, and then there was this excitement around doing the upside down challenge. So I implemented like a feature to one of the custom poster options was they are already upside down. So users would upload it straight and then it would automatically turn upside down.
Mm.
The text, we put a upside down text generator
Oh.
feature that the user
Yeah.
would type straight and it would automatically invert for them to copy and paste into social media. So yeah, I think now we are still analyzing how users use the site and looking at, okay, what do you want to add in terms of increments for the next campaign? And as Charles said, we saw the benefits of using AI for stories. So we're probably going to explore doing that also for activities. And then, yeah, see what else the feedback we get from the people that were part of it.
Hey,
Mhm.
I have a question about how folks submit their stories. Is it currently just text format, like they fill out a web form with text? Because one
That-
of the things that comes to my mind is like being able to kind of like record your story or have the site kind of record it for you, right? And like almost like interview style.
Yeah, we
That's
have.
a great
Oh,
question. And actually, sorry, Diego,
no,
go
you
ahead.
can go. You can go,
No,
Charles.
I
No.
was gonna say it was something and thanks for reminding me of the upside down text, because that was quite an adventure. I can tell that 1x spent some time trying to get it right, and the result is great now. But to answer your question, yes. So there's three different formats of answering or of submitting a story, either by text, or it can be the video,
Hmm.
or it can be artwork, because we also saw that a lot of cancer patients, they express
Mhm.
the whole experience of cancer through art. And I must say that's also a wonderful thing to go and explore all the artwork that you can find from different people. But I would say your idea of the interview format, that's actually quite good, because currently we can only the users can only upload a prepared video file, but not record live on the website. So thanks for that great idea. I hope we can steal
Uh,
it.
Take it, run with it. If you need
the
more insight, I'm thinking more about it as we're talking about it. But you
Yeah.
go. Happy to see how it works out.
Diego,
yeah,
do you want to add?
no, just yeah, when it's the what we call it the narrative, then you have two options. It's either free text, so you write your story as you wish, or it's guided Q&A. So we prepared depending on what kind, like because you say if you are a cancer survivor, or if you're a family member, or if you are medical professional, someone that's taking care of someone, then the questions that come to you are a little bit different because you experience cancer differently. So that there is that guided also option. So it's four, I would say, four options that you have to
Okay.
submit.
So before we close out the show, I wanted to give you guys a chance, maybe Charles, give you a chance to do a little PSA if you can. So I know that early detection is extremely important. I'm curious if there are any recent advancements in early detection that you'd like our listeners to kind of keep in mind.
I wouldn't say, well, if I can just say prevention is still the best way to kind of, let's say, reduce your chances of developing cancer. And I would say one advancement, which maybe I'm not sure if people who don't work in the cancer space don't know about, but there have been great advancements in eliminating certain cancers like cervical cancer. I mean, we're all men on this board, but do you know that there is a vaccine against cervical cancer that was developed, and actually that a lot of countries are starting to use, and in some contexts is also given to men because they can also transmit it's the HPV virus, I believe,
Yep.
that can lead to the development of cervical cancer. So I would say that I'm not an oncologist. I What I can tell you in early detection, I mean, there's a lot that's being done with AI more on analyzing, scans. There's been progress in that, but it's more about looking at the imagery and not necessarily. But I'm not. I'm afraid I'm not the greatest expert in that field. So I'll
Yeah,
say,
no problem. It was another last minute addition. I was just thinking it'd be a good thing to know. And yeah, I mean prevention is the best medicine, right? That's the saying for a reason. So
it
um,
contributes to a big chunk of reduction of cancer risk. But
Well,
yes, you should get checked and you should follow your doctor's recommendations for a screening, etc.
Well, Charles and Diego, thank you for the important work that you're doing, and also thank you for joining us today to talk about it. Hopefully, we've done a very small part in raising awareness and helping the cause. So appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you
Thank-
for having me.
Yes. Yeah, thanks for having us. It was good to share this with everybody.
do you have questions or feedback? You can reach out to Talking Drupal on the socials with the handle Talking Drupal or by email or show@talkingdrupal.com. You can connect with our hosts and other listeners on the Drupal Slack in the Talking Drupal channel.
Do you want to be a guest on Talking Drupal or our new show, TD Cafe? Click the guest request button in the sidebar at talkingdrupal.com.
You can promote your Drupal community event on Talking Drupal. Learn more at talkingdrupal.com/TD promo.
Get the Talking Drupal newsletter to learn more about our guest hosts, show news, upcoming shows, and much more. Sign up for the newsletter at talkingdrupal.com/newsletter.
And thank you, patrons, for supporting Talking Drupal. Your support is greatly appreciated. You can learn more about becoming a patron at talkingdrupal.com and choosing Become a Patron.
All right, Charles, if folks wanted to get a hold of you to talk more about World Cancer Day or find out more information, how could they best do that?
They can reach me on LinkedIn or at my email, Revkin at uicc.org.
Awesome. Diego, what about you?
I'm on Drupal.org at Diego F. Costa or LinkedIn.
Awesome. And Steve?
I'm Swert at Drupal Slack and Drupal.org.
Nick?
You can find me pretty much everywhere at Nixvan, NICXVAN.
And I'm John Picozzi. You can find me personally at picozzi.com. You can find me on the socials and Drupal.org at John Picozzi. And you can find out more about EPAM at EPAM.com.
And if you've enjoyed listening, we've enjoyed talking. See you guys next week.
Thanks a lot, everyone.